I want to talk about Indiana, Cleveland, because I think, have been more on the boat of this is a genuinely close series and this is going to be like an amazing series than I think a lot of people have been. And the reason for that is we think Indiana's guys tend to play up in the playoffs because they have a lot of two-way defenders who can shoot, who can make plays with the ball, who are sharp decision makers. And on the Cleveland side, obviously the Darius Garland injury, which we'll talk about more, he missed today's game, seems to be playing a real factor. And additionally, they just haven't been quite as good off the bench over the course, really since the trade deadline when they moved Niang and LeVert for DeAndre Hunter. Hunter has been okay by himself, but it's kind of everything else that the way that the group is playing doesn't quite bring the same level of, intensity and consistency maybe that bench unit was bringing early on. I thought the bench unit was great tonight. Like, I have no complaints about the Cavs bench unit. I thought they were really the reason that they were able to stay in this game, between Ty Jerome and what some of the other guys did on that bench. Jerome goes for like 22 and 8. He was fantastic, but Indiana pulls out the win here. They win 121-112. And really, to me, it came down to that first quarter, I guess. Like that is really the stretch where Indiana won. They win the first quarter by 11, and they just came out and punched the Cavs in the mouth offensively. It felt like Cleveland just didn't really have an answer for what the Pacers were bringing in terms of pace and in terms of just ball movement and rotating around. I'm going to be honest. I did not think this was Evan Mobley's best game, the defensive player of the year in the NBA. I didn't think this was his best game defensively. He was great on offense, and we'll talk about some of the adjustments they made throughout the course of the game to get him going on offense. But I thought defensively, he was a little bit over aggressive in like helping into the lane, and was kind of allowing them to get some open, freer looks from three against some of the mismatches. Like they would have a mismatch on the block that they thought was a concern, and Mobley would sag in, and then like Miles Turner or somebody would just shoot a pass out to the wing that where Mobley should have been. And it was just like, okay, this is a three, this is dead. And that's just like, a couple of things, right? Like there's way more going on here with this matchup, but I felt like this was an amazing, incredible matchup in chess match more than anything else. It was really fun to break down.
It was funny. You mentioned two of the things that I wrote early on in the game. And that was after the first quarter, I was like, I'm not sure Cleveland can play at this pace. I know Cleveland wants to play fast. I understand that. Indiana's pace is just a little bit different. Like it's just so intense in the way they do everything. And I was like, I feel like Cleveland, maybe they are going to be ready for it, but they got to figure out their transition defense against the Pacers. They got to figure out a way to slow them down. And it's not just after misses. It's not just after turnovers. It's one of those things that I get really frustrated when people say, well, you can't push pace, whenever the other team makes a shot. I disagree. You absolutely can. And if you want to see examples, watch the Indiana Pacers. They do it all the time after makes. They continue to push pace no matter what. And so if you're the Cavs, you always have to be ready for that in every situation. The other thing I thought they do well is they run some really fun offensive actions with multiple actions, and like it'll be a ball screen into a flare screen into a step in screen to the top of the key. And Cleveland kind of got lost on some of that stuff at different times. And so I think here's why it was fun is there's been a lot of really good defense in these playoffs, and I love it. The physical play, all of that. I love it. I think both of these teams have some defensive questions to answer after this game, because on the other side, I know Donovan Mitchell didn't have an efficient game, but I thought he got really good looks. I thought Indiana struggled. I shouldn't say good look. I thought he got to the paint a lot, and I thought he got to his three-pointer when he wanted.
Look, I mean, Donovan Mitchell tonight, when he was in the lane, he went 12 of 19.
Yeah, okay. So it was really, it was
point range.
It was just like the three. He went
1 for 11 from three, and a lot of those were pretty clean looks. I thought he just missed.
Yeah, so 33 on 30 attempts. What I was getting to was just like, okay, if he goes 5 of 11 from three, which we know Donovan Mitchell can do, like now we're talking about what, 45 points or whatever, and probably a Cavaliers win. So I think Indiana, like I've given Andrew Nembhard a lot of credit this year. I love Aaron Nesmith. And Nembhard was awesome offensively, like made some big time shots. I think he was their leading scorer, but I think Indiana has to figure out how are we going to stop Donovan Mitchell and some of these actions, these ball screens, stuff like that. So I think both teams have real defensive questions to answer coming out of game one.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know that people don't love hearing this. I do think this was like a shooting variance game in a big way. The Pacers go 19 of 36 and shoot 53% from three. The Cavs go 9 of 38 and shoot 24% from three. Look, I don't know about you guys, but like the Cavs are a super high level shooting team. Like they shot 38% as a team this year from three, on the fourth most volume in the league. That was second best in the league. I don't think that's going to happen like throughout the course of the series where they can regularly expect that Cleveland is going to shoot 24% from three again. Now, what I will say is like, look, like shooting variance to me is like bad analysis, right? How did they get to the shots? How did they, what did the shots look like, right? Were they open? Were they not open? I thought that against the starters, particularly that Indiana's starters did a really good job of running like Sam Merrill off of the line, right? And trying to make his life a bit harder shooting from three. I thought they did a pretty good job of running Max Strus off the line and making it really hard for him to get clean looks from three. Mitchell just like to me missed pull-up threes. Like I wouldn't expect him to miss as many of throughout the course of this, series, right? But what I did like is that when the Cavs bench came in, I felt like, and when Indiana's bench was in, that the Cavs really generated open looks that way effectively, because I don't know about you, and look, like we're kind of talking about the Cavs like they won the game, I guess, but I don't know about you, but I did not like the Ben Shepherd and Jarris Walker minutes. Every time that Ben was in, it felt like they were just going to like a guard to guard action where they could get Halliburton and Shepherd in the action together and just like force them to make decisions on, okay, do we put two on the ball against Donovan or Ty, or do we like, just switch it? And then we have, maybe Tyrese Halliburton on Donovan Mitchell or Ty Jerome, or we have Ben Shepherd on one of those guys, and that's not great, right? Like it just felt like they didn't have great answers for those guys. And Jarris Walker defensively is just like, I mean, I'll let you go on him because I did not appreciate it. Let's go with.
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned the Ty Jerome attacking Shepherd off the bounce, and then it happened again after we had texted about it. I'm not trying to like be rude towards Jarris Walker, but in my notes, I literally wrote in all caps, I don't understand why they keep playing him. You mentioned the defense. I don't think the offensive process is good. I love watching the Pacers play offense because the ball moves. It pops. It's a pass and it's a this and it's attack off the bounce. And it feels like every time Jarris touches the ball, and even listen, I was huge on Benedict Mathurin. Ben Math does this a little bit at times as well. Too. But Jarris
and Ben's off ball movement too, I think is bad in terms of like understanding how to relocate into like certain areas. Like there were a couple of times tonight where they tried to drive out of Cleveland zone, particularly because they played a lot of zone late in the first, actually is where my mind's going to with this, where like Ben would be like flashing to the middle of the like free throw line area and he'd be like running into a drive because it's like, oh no, we set a screen. Like, why are you here?
Yeah. You should be hammering to the corner or doing something off the ball to relocate. And so, but yeah, Jarris, it's kind of been through the playoffs in general. Even in the first round, I'd watch some games and I'm just like, the process just isn't great right now. And it doesn't seem to fit with the flow of things. It's probably hard for Carlisle to say, I'm going to shrink my bench and rotations whenever we play at the pace we do and try to give these guys 40 plus minutes, especially when you go and steal one on the road anyway. Right. So like continue to give those minutes. I just wonder, give him to McConnell. Maybe you can bump his minutes a little bit. I don't know. I'm with you. I wasn't huge on those guys' minutes, but I thought the starters played well for the most part. Nesmith, I like Aaron Nesmith, man. I think he knocks down catch and shoot threes. He can attack in a straight line. He had a couple of bad attempts. I like Pascal. I thought Tyrese was pretty good tonight. Super efficient, 13 assists. And I was looking through my end of the game breakdown. Yeah. So back-to-back possession holds up versus Mitchell in isolation, forcing a miss. Siakam got transition run out. Mobley actually got beat in transition on that play, to your defensive point. And then he comes back the next possession. Halliburton holds up like really well again versus Ty Jerome in isolation, and and they go the other way with it. So then he had then he blocked Strus again off a 3-point attempt. So he had back to back defensive plays at the end of the game for Tyrese Halliburton, and I thought that was pretty impressive from him, along with all of the other things he did. And then freaking Andrew Nembhard, man, like just momentum shot after momentum shot.
Yeah. So like just to finish the Pacers bench point, because I actually do think the series is really going to test the Pacers bench in a lot of ways. I do wonder, like, because Halliburton seems to be a guy that does need to like get some rest. Like he always has the thing across his like torso, probably to like try and activate his back a little bit while he's sitting down. There's an argument to be made that playing these guys allows the Pacers starters to be able to like have the rest that they need to go out and, out energy those guys on the Cavs when they're on the court late in games, right? If you're playing at a breakneck pace like the Pacers do, Halliburton at 36 minutes, Nembhard 37, Turner 35, Naismith 25 because he had the foul trouble, and then Siakam 34. If you can get away with the bench minutes where you're not getting killed, sure, it's probably better off, right? Because with the way that those guys play up tempo and really fly, you might just need to rest a little bit longer. Like they're probably playing the same number of possessions up and down in terms of like energy expended that, a team that plays like the Clippers pace when Halliburton's when Harden's at 40 minutes and 42 minutes, right? So it's a little bit trickier of a conversation in terms of like shortening the rotation, but I worry about whether or not those guys are going to be like super, super playable and effective. Particularly Walker and Shepherd are the ones that I worry about. Right.
Yeah. I mean, you just got to hope Mathurin still had 11 points on 10 shots. He had 5 rebounds. You hope you can get some sort of production, in those situations. McConnell, I would love him to play more minutes, but I was looking up like his career numbers, and it's just like, it's not really what he's done. Like as good as he was this year, he only played 18 minutes a night. Like that's kind of just his thing. Like maybe you can get him to 20, and then you kind of look through the rest of the roster. It's not a whole lot of other guys. So maybe it is a thing where, hey, Jarris, if you can give us 2-3 minute stretches where it's not catastrophic, that's worth it, because Siakam is now going to be 100% of himself instead of 85% of himself, because he got those extra 6 minutes of rest. And in that way, it's a net negative, even if Jarris's specific minutes may be, it's a net positive, even if Jarris's specific minutes are a little bit negative.
The other big key for me in this game is Halliburton just relentlessly attacked Jarrett Allen in space.
Yeah.
Look, I might have missed 1 or 2 early on, but I don't think I did. I don't think I missed more than 2. Let's go with. I had him 5 for 7 whenever he isolated Jarrett Allen to either get to a step back 3 or to get to the basket, which would be, I think it was like 12 points or so on 7 attempts, and that didn't even account for the passing, right? It just felt like Halliburton really felt like he could attack Allen whenever he wanted, and Nembhard caught him a couple of times as well. I will be interested to see who the best lineups are for the Cavs in this series, because having Darius Garland out there makes it even harder to switch, right? Because then you're creating mismatches in multiple scenarios. Like the sneaky thing about Sam Merrill is he's like I don't know. He might be like a B- defender now. Like he's not bad.
When he gets his chest on you, he holds up just fine.
Yeah,
like you might be able to cook him a little bit with a quick change of direction or some sort of explosive move. But if he doesn't get beat that way, he's going to move his feet. He's going to put his chest on you, and he's going to hold up and not give ground.
Right. Like he's not that bad on. Like honestly, I might say he's like probably average on defense is where I'm at. Like maybe like a slightly positive like defender, because guys try to attack him and he just doesn't. Like he can move enough to where he stays in front of you, and yeah, he doesn't close out like at a super high level because he's not super long, but he's probably going to force a contested mid-range jumper a lot of the time.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Or a contested three. So, okay, let's replace Merrill for Garland, like they will whenever Garland. It seems like based on Jared Greenberg's reporting in the middle of the game that Garland will probably be back for game 2. Garland is better than Sam Merrill. I'm not going to make the case otherwise. Of course, I'm not going to make that case otherwise. But what that does is it creates more mismatches defensively. If Allen is already getting cooked by Halliburton in, a switch situation, okay, we're going to run a action where we have Nembhard being guarded by Garland, right? They might have put Garland. I think my read is maybe you put Garland on, Naismith and kind of work it that way. But if you do that, they're just going to set guard to guard screens and have Halliburton have screens coming from Naismith, right? And then you're going to have to make a decision. Do you switch that, or do you have, either Mitchell or Strus or whoever you have guarding Halliburton at that time fight over the top of it and try and get around it? And if that's the case, then you're like sort of playing drop with Darius Garland as like the big defender there. And that becomes a little bit trickier. So the Cavs experimented with some zone in the first quarter, particularly from like the 3-minute, mark until the end of the quarter. And I thought there were like some mixed results there. I thought that, a lot of it was not great, but I worry about it against the starters because like part of it was like Mathurin screwing up like McConnell driving into the middle of the zone, right? And this was like with a smaller unit though. They were playing bench, like it was Mobley and Wade versus Siakam and Toppin in the front court. They also tried a couple of different zones. Like I had them starting with a 3-2 zone at the top, and then they switched back into a 2-3 zone near the end of the first, which I thought was interesting. So like you have a couple of different looks to be able to do that. I don't know. I'll be interested to see how they go about guarding with Garland, given that Allen has already been kind of cooked a little bit by Halliburton. And I'm sorry, I'll finish here right now. Like, I wonder where I'm going with this is this just not a series for Allen, basically, and they have to go small with Mobley at the 5.
Well, that's what I need to go back and watch the early possessions as well, because I felt like Turner and Siakam got some top of the key 3-point attempts as well off some actions that it either surprised Mobley or Allen or both or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then as you were talking through that, my first thought was, okay, well, how can Indiana hunt Garland to get him on Siakam and then let Siakam take him to 12 feet, 15 feet and isolate him in the post? Whether it's, and this is where I say Cleveland has to be more deliberate in transition defense. You can't allow cross matches just because the Pacers push pace. Either you have to deny outlet passes and slow the transition down, or you have to be very, very deliberate with the sense of urgency of these are our matchups. When a shot goes up, they secure it. We're getting to those matchups because I mean, think about all of the things we've already talked about. Like they just make it too easy on Indiana to find the matchup they want to get and then to attack. But that's what I would worry about with Garland is, can they do some off-ball screening? Is it on-ball screening? Can they get cross-match? Whatever, where as soon as if they see Garland on Siakam, we're throwing it to him, we're clearing it out, we're spacing, and they have the players to get that spacing, right? Like this is the Miles Turner stretch big thing. You can throw it to Siakam, and then with Turner, with Hallie, with Nembhard, and with Nesmith, who are you helping off? Like, who's going to double that situation? And then all of those guys can move the ball and knock down a catch and shoot if they need to.
And this could be a series as well, where if you do take Allen off the court particularly, but even when he's on the court, you might just have to totally give up the offensive class.
Yeah.
Like you might just have to say, shot goes up. We have to get back so that we are aligned where we are not giving up cross matches.
Yeah.
Like I remember like there were a couple of times where Halliburton just like locked Allen on one side of the court in a cross match. And just like and Allen like tried to communicate. There was one particularly where Allen like got caught in a cross match on Halliburton in transition. Allen recognized it happening while it was happening. And he went over to Mitchell and was like, we got to switch, go. And Donovan just didn't go. Right. And that's where, and this was in the first quarter, and it was a breakdown in communication. And it just led to a Halliburton 3. Right. But like, this is where, to me, you have to try and figure out, okay, we have to be like 100% locked in on what we're doing in terms of our communication as well. And we're talking about it from the Cavs perspective, but this is why Indiana is so fucking hard to play. Is that they put this pressure on you relentlessly to be perfect in terms of your communication. You know what I mean? Like we're talking about the negative piece of it. The positive piece of it is the way that Indiana forces you into these situations, and they force you into tough spots because they have multiple ball handlers who can really make decisions in Nembhard and in Halliburton. They have shooters all over the court in Naismith and in Turner. They have a guy who's running the court harder than anybody on planet Earth in Pascal Siakam. Like, this is what makes them really hard to guard. And this is why we've been talking about them for months now as this team that's going to be really tough in the playoffs, because we've seen it in the playoffs already. They made the fucking Eastern Conference Finals last year. And on top of it, they are a really, really difficult team to game plan for because nobody else just plays at their pace at the end of the day.
Yeah. Listen, if Halliburton was going to get back to what we saw, like and that's what I thought his mentality was good tonight. Like that's what I always look for is he attacking? Is he shooting the pull up jumper? All of that. When he's in that headspace, I feel really good. It's funny that you bring up Mitchell with Allen because I wrote down notes for the last, 5 minutes of the game, just in case it was like super, super crazy. I wanted to have all of my detailed notes. And the first one is Nembhard gets a catch and shoot 3-pointer off Halliburton pass, because Mitchell had gotten switched onto Turner, Siakam, whoever, and Hunter was trying to scram switch with him, and Mitchell just never heard him. He just stayed on him. So Hunter went all the way to scram. Mitchell never was ready to switch. So then he's trying to close back out and he's late. And it's like, I just found it interesting that Mitchell was both of those. So whether he like just wasn't as locked in, if he was a little bit more like, hey, I'm just going to stay home, if he needs to be a little bit more cognizant and aware of some of these situations of getting the right matchups, because it has to happen so much faster, to your point, because Indiana is always going. They're my prototypical like example of you can still push pace. You can still put pressure on the defense even after the other team makes a shot.
Yeah. And to that point on like the scram switching, right? So like that is something they did throughout the game. Like if they got a switch where like Merrill was locked on to somebody like Miles Turner, they would auto switch it and say like, okay, Evan, you're in the corner right now guarding Siakam. We're going to scram switch off the ball. We're going to go and have Merrill guard Siakam, and we're going to make it just like slightly better in terms of the mismatch of height and size. And I would imagine that that's probably what they will do. Yeah. When Garland comes back as well, they will scram switch almost everything.
Yep.
But like, if you short roll, if you're Turner now, or if you pick and pop, as opposed to like fully roll, it's harder to scram switch because there are fewer options. There's less time to be able to do that. So that's why like the guard to guard actions that they run are really fucking hard, or the, Halliburton Siakam ball screens really hard, right? This is just a bitch of a team to play. Yeah. Like they are so awesome. They have evaluated these guys so well in terms of the blend of quick decision making, skill, and shooting, and the pace that they play with Rick Carlisle, man. Like They are an awesome basketball team. And again, we said the whole way, we think this series goes 7.
Yeah,
like that was, we didn't know who would win. Honestly, I do still kind of lean the Cavs, but the whole way was like, if you look at it on paper, this Cavs team won 64 games. That is 14 more than Indiana. This should be a 4 or 5 game series, right? And that's just not the reality. Like, Indiana is a different team in the playoffs because of the pressure that they can put on you.
Yep. No, I was thinking about it today. Like, obviously we didn't get a chance, like even with Indiana winning game 1, I'll still stay true to what I was going to pick, which was Cavs in 7. But I was going to like emphasize, I wouldn't be shocked if the Pacers win it in 7, or, maybe they still, and get one in 6, somehow at home or whatever. I assume we see Cleveland bounce back and win game 2. And, I hope for 7 though, like just as someone who gets an opportunity. This is going to be the best series to watch, in my opinion. Like, all due respect to like Thunder Nuggets, where I think we're all really excited. I was going to say that's the only other one that I thought about. Yeah. Like, I think that series is going to be super fun to watch. I also think the adjustments with the Warriors in Minnesota, how they go about that, particularly with Minnesota on defense, with Ant and Randall being not the most attentive off-ball players, but being really good on-ball defenders, right? Or at least like solid enough on-ball defenders. That's going to be a really fun chess match. They're going to get backdoored so many times out of split action. It's going to be amazing.
But the thing that I'm most excited for is this series, because they have so many different ways that they can adjust to one another, because in theory, they both have a ton of depth. These teams are super fun to play. They play up-tempo basketball. They have defenders that can create, all kinds of difficult situations. Like, this is going to be such a fun series. This is by far, to me, the best second round series that I'm excited to watch as like a basketball nerd.
And that's the thing. And it's going to be the most underrated and underappreciated series, right? Because you have Boston, New York, you have Golden State, Minnesota, and then you have, Jokic and SGA, Nuggets, Thunder. I'm juiced about. It's going to be a whole thing. But because of all of those storylines, this one will be underappreciated. It'll be the one that like I'll point to people that are like, you want fun basketball, like you're missing out on the series. And I think all of these series are going to be fun. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's like this series, I said it going back, right? Like, I was like, I'm not trying to say these teams are going to win it. I'm not trying to discount these series, but the idea of Indiana, Cleveland was fascinating to me going back a couple weeks now. And it played out exactly like I thought it might in game 1. And to your point, well, like game 2, like Cleveland's probably going to come out and shoot 40% from 3. They get Garland back, which adds a whole nother thing. I'm with you as a basketball nerd. I'm just excited to take notes and watch adjustments and rotate. I want to ask you a question before we. So I've made notes on this all season long, and I want to get you perspective to see if I'm overdoing it here. This is a general strategy question. Okay, Sam? So end of the third quarter tonight, and the Cavs do a take foul. They had a foul to give. It was like 20 seconds, and then they just give a foul with 11 for whatever reason. Teams do this all the time, I guess, to set their I still don't understand it. What it did was it allowed the Pacers to sub in Pascal and Miles Turner that were on the bench. Yeah. Guess what happens? Siakam drives, collapses the defense, kicks to Turner, who knocks down the 3. I've seen Detroit do this. I've seen other teams. I cannot stand this defensive, like just give away a foul. Like
so
if there's still real quick, if they're
for it,
if there's still 7 or 8 seconds, they have time, but it allows them to put their best offensive players on the floor. It doesn't make sense to me.
So that's what I was going to say. I'm for it if the best offensive players are already on the court.
Sure.
And you're slowing them down and you're letting your half court defense get set. I am not for it if it gives them a chance to like go put, Pascal Siakam back on the court. Like that's not what you want. Yeah. That is bad for you.
So like, and it wasn't like they weren't even like stopping transition. It was like one of those like, okay, there's 11, I don't know how much time was left, but it was just like, we're going to foul here because this is what we do. We foul and now we make you take it sideline out of bounds, and it lets us settle in a little bit more, and maybe we get your play call or whatever. But I'm like, no, you let two of their better offensive players come onto the court, and it played. I just saw teams do it to Detroit all year. They would foul just for really no reason, just because they had one to give. Like, we have one to give, we'll take it with 6 seconds. Well, now here comes Cade Cunningham, and it's like, do you understand your chances of getting a stop are exponentially greater with Cade sitting on the bench than they are with him on the court when you're playing Detroit? I don't know. It's something I had made notes of all year, and it just drove me crazy watching Cleveland do that tonight.
Yeah.
And then it played out perfectly for the opponent as Turner knocks down a three. So anyway.
And then just like quick thing. I mean, if Indiana makes the Eastern Conference Finals again, we're a long way from that. I wonder if there will be another starish player that wants to go there like Siakam did. I'm just going to say the infrastructure of Halliburton, Nembhard, Naismith, and Miles Turner, plus the kids that they have, plus they have all of their picks moving forward. This Indiana to me is the sneakiest Giannis team. Like, you probably don't want to move Giannis in division, right? Like, that's something you're probably not enthused about doing. But like, if they came and offered Siakam and all of their picks, or like Siakam and Nembhard and all of their picks, you still have Naismith as like a great defender. You still have Turner as the floor spacer that Giannis needs. You already have this offense with Halliburton that plays at this breakneck pace where Giannis is going to be a monster. I mean, you think we've seen the best out of Giannis this year is in Milwaukee? Statistically, he's going to average 35 a game if he goes to Indiana. I would call that from the jump next year. If he played a full season with the Pacers, given their pace, given the way that they play with their spacing, he would average 35 a game. Like, that to me is the sneakiest Giannis team, is the Pacers. And I just want that on the record before we move on. That's
interesting. I like it. Yeah, I hadn't got into that too much, but the interesting thing here is that if they knocked off the Cavs, then let's say they lost in the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah, I mean, obviously you trade for Giannis no matter what, but it is like, you got to feel good about your chance. Like, we're just one more little jump, whether it's a jump from Siakam to Giannis or whatever it is, to really being title contenders. So I'm trying to wrap my head around that idea. That wasn't something I had expected on the rundown today. So
that is, to me, like, I would pick that team to win the title. If it was Halliburton, Giannis, Turner, and like they were able to keep Naismith and like find other players, right?
Yeah, I wonder what the salary situation would be, because Turner's unrestricted free agent. So like, it would be interesting to know like how else they could build out the roster, you know, like fill the rest of it in. But I'm not saying you don't do it. I'm just saying I would be interested to know what mechanisms they would have to, because you'd have at least one starting. You're gonna have to give up Nembhard or Naismith. Like, if you're Milwaukee, you would want Siakam and Nembhard plus the picks, I would guess. Right. They'd have to give up that to beat out what other teams are going to give, would be my guess.
Right. But do you have to give up Mathurin and Jarris in that case?
Probably not, right? Like, if you were going Siakam, Nembhard, and 4 picks, is that what they have? They have 4 that they can trade?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, who knows what somebody's willing to give up draft assets wise. So, and after the thing that just happened with Halliburton Sr., John Halliburton, that would be extra funny, obviously. But like, I'm just saying, like, to me, from a basketball perspective, I actually think that Indiana is the most fun place Giannis could go. But we don't know I still think that there's like a real chance the Bucks don't move Giannis. I'm just going to say that and put that out in the ether. I really do think that they will try to keep him with everything that they can, for sure. But if you're looking at a situation where the Bucks aren't able to get their picks back and they still have to try and like compete a little bit, getting Siakam and Nembhard plus a bunch of picks, like, you could do worse than that, I think, for sure. Sure. Yeah, that's interesting. So,